Okay. So, just to give you a background, because it's a roadmap, we have to look at where we've been, where we are now, and of course the roadmap would actually suggest the way forward and how to get to the destination that we want to go to. So, the textile industry of the Philippines is actually a pioneer in the ASEAN region. And it was really performed very well in the 1960s up until the 1990s. And during the pre-90s, even the Philippine garments industry was highly competitive. And the 1970s to the 1980s was actually taken to be the golden age of the industry. But then, the multi-fiber agreement phase-out happened. During that time, the textile industry was heavily protected. We saw the decline in cotton farms and production, and then now we see fragmented textile and garments industry. So, what is the textile, where is the textile industry now? So as I said, in the mid-1990s, we saw a downhill trend and a continuing trend at that in the performance of the textile industry. Be it in output, in the exports and employment, the industry kept on decreasing in its performance. So, in 2016, the exports stood at $180 million. The imports stood at $1.2 billion. And the share of exports to the U.S., including for twine and corded, for the period 2011 to 2016, stood at 43%. And then, this would also show the decline in the hectareage on cotton planted in the Philippines, as well as we would see here the decline in the value addition in the textile industry. As for garments, it's the same. For in the mid-1990s, the performance also went downhill, be it in output, in exports, in employment. And so, while the Philippines has been increasing its expenditures on imported clothing since 2010, while the Philippine consumption of apparel stood at 1.81 billion, but 1.76 billion is provided by domestic supply. So, 97.1% of apparel demand is actually supplied by domestic producers. So how it came to be, as I said, there was this multi-fiber agreement phase out, which led to, under this MFA, it governed the global trade in apparel under a quota system for over 30 years. And then the phase out allowed for greater market access to all exporters. And the outcome was that there was a shift in the global players. The shift from the Philippines as among the outcome. And then there came about the financial crisis and the global recession, which lowered the demand for apparel, and the apparel global supply chain was really severely affected. Parallel to that, there were some initiatives from government. There was the Textile Modernization Program, which gave a credit line for investors. Actually, Filipina Synthetic Corporation, or PhilSyn, invested, but due to the absence of a petrochemical industry at the time, we were really reliant on imports. And as I said earlier, there is this garments and textile fragmentation. So there was also a tariff reform program which lifted the import restrictions and reduced the tariffs. And as a result, dumping of surplus goods from Hong Kong, South Korea came about, And then there were other problems like technical smuggling of textiles, among others. So then garments and textiles also were treated as separate industries. And because of this, there was a lack of forward and backward linkages, which eventually weakened both industries. But we still have some strengths of the textile and garments industry which we can leverage on. This would include really our creativity, the skills of our workforce, there's local government support, and the incorporation of culture and tradition in design of textiles. But we also have to recognize the weaknesses. High production costs, there's no economies of scale, lack of incentives, lack of support for documentation for patent registration, there's smuggling, lack of investments in capital equipment, there's outdated technology. And then, of course, there is the threat from the global competition, which, so there are cheap exports, high capital requirement, and right now, we see apparently youth's aversion to farming. But the opportunities are also there. Textile industry is a creative industry after all. There is the opportunity to promote weaving as part of tourism. And we have a strategic position in the ASEAN region. In terms of garments, our strengths also would include ingenuity of our workers, the strong potential for employment generation, labor market pooling, the presence of skilled local designers. There remains to be the commitment of industry leaders. There's a high demand for garments, quick industry turnaround, and the history and experience for global connections. And again, for the weaknesses, there would be the fragmentation of the industry, lack of manpower, the small capacity of the industry, high production costs. Buyers look at the Philippines as a minor source market. And then there's also the lack of R&D in design and development, and again, outdated technology. And for the threats, the same threats we would see for the garments would be strong global competition, the proliferation of ukay-ukay and smuggling. There are corruption in government bureaucracy, external risks, better employment opportunities in other industries, and uncertainty of funding for SMEs. But there are also very good opportunities, one of which is the economic restructuring of China. China is now looking at moving towards higher level activities and moving out of the more labor-intensive activities, which means there would be a certain void that will be created, which we can actually take advantage of. We also have a growing population and an increasing per capita income. We have a high potential for subcontractors and SMEs. We can definitely showcase the Filipino culture. And then, of course, the ASEAN integration through the ASEAN Economic Community and the regional comprehensive economic partnership. USA's diversification of sources and of imports, and the new global order on USA's FTAs. And of course, we still have the GSP plus of EU. For this slide, we'd see that the Philippines, developing countries, would be involved in the production. So if we look at the value chain, production is actually at the bottom. And after 4 decades, our country's garment industry still remains in the CMT, which is the lower part of the global value chain. I remember Director Celia said during the launch that while it is at the bottom, it is really very important that we still have manufacturing nonetheless. But we want to go up the value chain, whether in that side or that side. So what does the roadmap envision? So the roadmap actually envisions a sustainable, competitive, and integrated Philippine textile garment industry that generates inclusive economic growth by 2029. So what does it mean? Sustainable meaning that the textile garment industry is able to meet the needs of present and future generations by observing standards and practices that protect the environment and the society. Competitive meaning that in both the domestic and foreign markets, the Philippine textile garment industry would be competitive. Meaning also that our textiles and garments will be preferred over imported ones in the domestic market and preferred over other nations' products in the export markets. Integrated, this means that textiles and garments would no longer be considered as separate industries. They would be one industry acting as a conduit for each other's growth and development, and where textile manufacturers are suppliers of fabrics and other raw materials required by garment manufacturers. Inclusive, meaning that the textile garment industry would contribute to Philippine economic growth by generating income and employment directly through the manufacturing of textiles and garments, and indirectly through the industries and services allied to textile and garment manufacturing. So let me just jump to the short-term milestones and strategies. So our goal is to go higher in the industry's value chain. As you've seen, we are still at the bottom of the value chain. And the milestones that will be a sequence of upgrading the capability of textile garment manufacturers from assembly, CMP, to original brand manufacturing. So while the priority is on the production segment of the value chain, this is without prejudice to Filipino firms who are capable to move ahead on to the upper spectrum of the value chain. So, given the dismal performance of the country's textile garment industry over the past 2 decades, and the global opportunities available for the industry, the implementation of the strategies should be fast-tracked. And the strategies should collectively bring about the achievement of the milestones, as some strategies require years of continued implementation. Before realizing their full impact, it is best to implement them as very early on. That's why we're happy that we are partnering with PTRI, DOST. Also, we are partnering with the industry itself and the academy in implementing this roadmap. So for the short term, meaning by 2020 to 2022, the goal is really for the production of natural and synthetic textile fiber to increase by 5 to 10%. And this will be using a combination of imported cotton and synthetic fiber with Philippine natural textile fiber. And aside from supplying the domestic garment manufacturers, exports of textile will increase by 3 to 5%. It is also our goal in the short term that the Philippines will be among the top 20 world garment exporters, but this would require us a 12.3% annual increase in exports from the current position in the world market. So, the strategies would include addressing the smuggling of textiles and ukay-ukay. This would include the strict implementation of RA 4653, implementation of SGS pre-shipment inspections, cancel business permits related to ukay-ukay. We also have to provide access to capital and land, which means financial assistance for the purchase of raw materials and new machinery and equipment, especially for our MSMEs. We need also to increase the hectareage of land for BT, non-BT, or BCI cotton production and other natural textile fibers. To decrease the country's dependence on imported cotton, one strategy is to increase cotton fields to at least 300 hectares in the next 5 years. And to achieve this, one approach is to convert back some of the land used for maybe tobacco production to cotton production, specifically BT and non-BT cotton. There is also a need to provide incentives, especially the adoption of innovative production processes that promote sustainability, reduce the value-added tax from the current 12% VAT to help reduce production costs in the industry. Also, we need to enhance market access for exports. This can be done through the establishment of bilateral FTAs, particularly with the US. We can also continue to take advantage of FTAs and the GSP schemes to increase exports, negotiate for liberal ROO requirements in bilateral or regional FTAs, and we should leapfrog innovation and automation in production, distribution, and retail in compliance with Industry 4.0. This means shortening production cycle through automation, adoption of innovative methods and processes to entice the current generation of tech-savvy labor force to join the industry, foster a symbiotic relationship between fast and sustainable fashion, use innovative distribution and retail technologies to shorten lead time to reach sales channels and consumers. And then another strategy would be to import raw materials for textiles for now, establish regional localized ecosystems, strengthen institutional support, and including manpower development and encouraging sustainable production, improving product development, and product marketing and promotion. For the medium-term milestones, this would cover the period 2023 to 2025. During this period, the country's textile garment industry will have been integrated. So, textile manufacturers will have provided fabrics to garment manufacturers already, and this will require production of natural and synthetic fiber to increase by 10% or more by having a developed natural yarn supply chain, among others. The Philippines will be among the top 15 world exporters of garments, and this would require an annual increase in exports by 21.7% from the short-term targets. And then, the capacity of garment manufacturers will have been upgraded from cut, measure, and trim, and original equipment manufacturing to original design manufacturing, meaning a full package manufacturing which include input sourcing and product design and development, and producers creating their own designs to manufacture products for international brand owners. So what are the strategies to achieve these goals? This would include addressing infrastructure gaps and logistics bottlenecks, like streamlining connections between the industry's upstream and downstream producers, maintain the efficiency of production, transportation, communication, and distribution through high-quality infrastructure and logistical services, reduce power costs. We also need to establish clustering and agglomeration of textile garment manufacturers in strategic locations. And this would require a push for clustering of textile garment industries, and together with allied and support industries, they would form agglomeration to reduce costs and achieve economies of scale. Another strategy would be to diversify markets for exports, reduce our dependency on our major export markets, and focus on establishing channels to emerging export markets. Another strategy would be to promote fashion design and technical training centers, and of course, increase investments for R&D. For the long term, meaning by 2026 to 2029, the country's textile manufacturers will have had their global brand that is unique, well-known, affordable, and great for everyday wear. And they will have the capacity to fully support the textile requirements of garment manufacturers. By then, the Philippines will have been among the top 10 world exporters of garments, with exports rising at 45.8% per year. And garments manufacturing will be upgraded from original design manufacturing to original brand manufacturing. This means manufacturers have developed their own brands or labels and established their global networks of contractors, suppliers, distribution channels, both in the domestic and the foreign markets. And to do this, the suggested strategies would be to push to be a global player in Filipino branding, minimize, if not close, infrastructure gaps and logistical bottlenecks, focus manpower, training program, or highly specialized skills for original brand manufacturing, and increase the supply of natural fiber textile raw. So in summary, this roadmap aspires to revive and enhance the competitiveness of the Philippine textile garment industry. If you have observed, we are not now calling them garments and textiles, but we're calling them textile garments industry, so that in our subconscious, it will be one industry. So this is again included in the Manufacturing Resurgence Program of government. The economic restructuring of China as it shifts from labor-intensive industries to capital and technology-intensive industries may result to a shift in the global value chain in the textile garment industry. This then creates a huge opportunity for the Philippines to revive its textile garment industry, catch up with the large players, enlarge its market share, and reclaim its glory days in the global textile garments industry. The country cannot afford to miss such a rare opportunity, and the time is now or never. I know the roadmap, since the launch, we still have received many inputs and comments from industry. We just would like to say that this roadmap is a living document. It is not cast in stone. So whatever developments will be coming, depending on the progress of the implementation, then we can make adjustments in the goals, in the targets. But what we would like to underscore is that we really have to grab this opportunity and we have to work together. This is just the beginning. As you've seen, the strategies are quite difficult to master, but I believe that with the help of everyone, if we are united to have this integrated, unified textile garment industry, then we will achieve our goals. With that, I'd like to end the presentation. Thank you once again for your attention, and have a good morning.